Ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are live once again. How's everybody doing today on this Thursday, August 27th, 2026? And it's a relatively nice day here on the in our secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor. And guys, I don't know if you know this or not, but the Disney family has always been a big sailboat racing family. And behind me is a boat named Pyewacket, which is the Disney family race boat. And I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. So it must be time for like the Transpac race to Hawaii or God knows where these guys are headed. But anyways, always a nice day to see a well sailed boat at the dock. And let's see what there. There's always so much going on to chat about. But first, let's start out on a little philosophical matter. And it goes something like this: life gives you choices all the time, right? And how about the choice when you go to the grocery store? And the reason you're at the grocery store is because you were sent to pick up some mayonnaise. And as you look the mayonnaise up and down the aisle, you see there's salad dressing, there's different types of mayonnaise. And then you get to like the Hellman's and the mayonnaise that you would think of, names you have heard of. Um, so as I'm looking at this, I make the calculated thought that in times like this, do you go with the real thing, spend a little extra and go with the real thing, or do you cut the corner and do you go with a cheap imitation? And as a general proposition, I always kind of like to go for the real thing. The cheap imitation can kind of be left behind. And of course, years ago, one of my old sailing buddies shared the same name as his dad, and you would call and ask if you could please speak to Squeaky, and they go, "Well, you want the real thing or the cheap imitation?" Now, see, in that regard, usually the cheap imitation would do, but for you guys, you get the real mayonnaise. And the reason I bring this up is because sometimes people just say things better than I ever could. And if I were to try and paraphrase or abbreviate, it wouldn't do it justice. You would be getting the cheap imitation. So this is relatively short, but it's extremely timely, and it comes from today's Financial Times, so you know that it's current and well written and true. And the title is "The Myth," MYTH, not miss with a lisp. That's myth, MYTH, like the gross misunderstanding, the fairy tale of. That would be a better fit, wouldn't it? The fairy tale of Trump's grand strategy. And this is written by a fellow named Janan Ganesh from the Financial Times of London. And you guys know how much I think about those guys. So let's get on with the real thing and just do it as best I can. We don't want to. Well, we don't want to kind of thin the mayonnaise unnecessarily. So how about this? So Janan, thank you. Here we go. In Wiktionary, the online dictionary, there's an entry for Trumpsplain. Infinitive verb, present tense. To Trumpsplain is to explain or rationalize Donald Trump, his actions, remarks, policies, or popularity. What an inelegant word. As an alternative, Wiktionary offers Sane Wash, which is scarcely better. Thankfully, we won't be needing either for much longer. I don't suggest that Trump is yesterday's man. He will still command the world's premier armed forces until January 20th, 2029, whatever midterm voters do in November. Okay? He's still in charge until January 20th, 2029. He might even save the face he's lost in Iran with another war or two. But something has died as of late, and it's the contrarian case for his presidency. The insistence that he had strategic gifts imperceptible to liberal snobs like, you, me, and our friends. And he goes on. Iran has been too big a fiasco to square with that claim. He launched the war in a fit of exuberance. I told you I couldn't do it as good as they do. In a fit of exuberance after previous military wins, and because, and Marco Rubio's telling, Israel was going to strike regardless. Since then, Trump has not been able to define, much less achieve victory. How true is that? Hang on. Sorry about that, guys. Scratchy third problem. Uh, he launched war in a fit of exuberance. Since then, Trump has not been able to define, much less achieve victory, which seems to range in his mind from Iran's unconditional surrender to the mere reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, otherwise known as the Latin phrase, the status quo ante. That means the state as it existed before the event. Okay, before the event. So, that would be ground zero. As of now, we're like in the hole, right? We got to climb to get to zero. I guess that would be underwater and trying to get like to the surface. His latest gambit is economic pressure on that regime. And I'm going to mention to you, this is the guy that went to business school at Wharton, or goes MBA at Wharton. You paying some Ivy League school, and after 6 or 7 months of bombing and killing God knows how many people and destroying how much infrastructure, the light goes on that maybe there's an economic answer to this. When you talk about poop for brains, anyway. This implies confrontation with China's Iran enabling companies, just as Trump seeks to smooth relations with Xi Jinping. That's not as much fun as it sounds, a little smooth relations with Xi Jinping. Anyway, the point is not just that his war has gone badly, even for a well planned war might have faltered, but it contradicts his other objectives, such as avoiding foreign entanglements, and bears no hallmarks of detailed preparation. In other words, it was unstrategic. How about that? It was everything Trump splainers always denied he was. Their one option now is to dismiss the war as an uncharacteristic lapse. Yeah, right. More likely, Trump has been acting on impulse all these years, and pure luck saved him and us from disaster. The heart of Trump's planning, the supposed rationale for all the President's strange actions, is China. Your classic explainer is an anti Beijing hardliner who assumes that Trump shares their monomania. In fact, it's hard to think of a president who has blown more hot and cold on such an important bilateral relationship. They're more important than Russia, aren't they? I consider the notion that Trump withholds support from Ukraine because China, not Russia, is the real threat. Even in theory, this makes a little sense. Let us confront China by enabling a Russia-friendly war outcome that it clearly desires? Question mark. Like, yeah, right. Also in practice, Trump does things that contradict. That contradict his China hawk reputation all the time. His great friend in Europe, the former Hungarian Prime Minister and autocrat Viktor Orban, who is Xi's main man in the continent, when it comes to America's military posture, the distribution of forward bases and so on, there's scarcely been a pivot towards Asia under Trump. And we know what's going on. Our bases in the Middle East are getting pounded, so we're having to lead there. So, this is America's clearly going backwards. In fact, Asian democracies, even those with which the U.S. has mutual defense treaties, are left in constant doubt about his commitment to them. Last week, Trump asked the Pentagon to cut short a series of military drills with South Korea. The reason for the snub, which would have emboldened China and the communist part of the peninsula, well, he says, my very good relation with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And thus spake the, let's see, where were we? Oh, guys, this is horrible. We don't know. I don't know what. I don't know what happened here. I'll try to get back to it as best I can. In the meantime, we'll let's see. Well, I tell you what, guys. Why don't we move on to the second point of the time of the Financial Times today, and another editorial saying that U.S. is gambling with its role as the investment headquarters of the world. And there was I think it was Paul Krugman had a little article the other day, and he went on to say, Trump has to be destroying America for some reason. I mean, everything he does is counter to America's interest. Everything. And then he tries to paint it as how great everything is. If it is so great, please have a oval dress in the Oval Office and tell me how. Explain all this winning to me. You see that American flag blown over my shoulder? People like die for that thing, and Cadet, who was it that nicknamed Cadet Bone Spurs? I mean, when you're just a hypocritical weasel, you have to expect these kind of things. But for whatever reason, Trump is convinced that all is well and good. And I think the person most responsible for that is one, two, three, drum roll. Do we have any of those kind of cool things? And how about let's do the classic drum roll? Yeah, that was kind of a good classic drum roll, but that wasn't nearly loud enough. And the person most responsible for this is Natalie Harpoon Harp. And the reason is her job is to hang with the press all day long and feed him positive reinforcement. Now, in these days and times, I'm a little hard pressed to find where she might find, neutral, unbiased, more objective sources of news that would paint the president in the in the light in which he would like to be seen. And so it's pure speculation, but I bet that she picks up on blurbs and articles from things and people that I don't know, might be a little less than credible. Like, and let's talk about that just briefly. Credible from credibilious, meaning worthy of being believed. Uh, so yeah, you kind of, and when the guy opens his mouth, who takes the guy seriously anymore? I mean, when I see him, I almost just see January 6th images all over again. And no matter what you think of the guy, wasn't January 6th enough of an event to tell him to put him in jail, honestly? I mean, if that's not an armed insurrection, that's an armed insurrection against the government of the United States. I don't know what it is. Uh, and on top of that, I was talking to somebody this morning about the corruption, and he goes, "Well, I never hear about that." Well, there's a reason for that. If you are halfway interested in, I said, well, it depends on why you watch the news or why you watch TV. If you watch it to be informed, I think you kind of, blew that one. I think the boat left the dock, the train left the station, the car left, or whatever it is. So pick the analogy. Uh, but I mean, just to assume blanket credibility at this point, it just defies logic. And I'm going to tell you, it's deep. In my opinion, it's deeper of a little. It's worthy of a little psychological investigation. I mean, and of course, then you have to worry about the psychologist or psychiatrist who, I just say this as a joke. They can't really cure you too quickly. You know what I mean? We gotta make sure this is all, therapied out or whatever it is. And like I say, God love people who go through mental therapy and benefit from it. It's like everything else. Nothing's, great. It depends on the hands of the user, like how it's used and by whom and on whom. But my point is that when you see somebody acting insane, and I'm just gonna go way out on a limb. You guys know I never go out on a limb. But you know what else I never do is I never remembered to open the phone lines so you can actually call in and agree, disagree, or just vent. The number is 949-629-3820. So if you do have a thought on this, let me know. Uh, and does anybody, there just seems to be a certain smugness among the Trump people that the election will almost be ceremonial, that Trump will be, recrowned by a compliant House and Senate. And, my plea is the same one that I'm going to mention until, and it's no matter who it is, if they have a Democrat after their name, vote for them. I don't care if it's Democrat socialist, Democrat communist. I don't care. I mean, I'm not, I'm not a hard left guy. I'm more like, center left, maybe little on the liberal side. Uh, but the one thing I think we're entitled to is some sort of decency in leadership. And, when was it John Cornyn from Texas and the guy from Louisiana, Cassidy, were holding up their votes on Todd Blanche's Attorney General confirmation, you kind of thought there might be like an adult or somebody with like a bit of a spine left in DC. And when they gave in, it's like, well, the last person with anything vaguely resembling a spine isn't here anymore. And what we need is just the opposite of that. Just so many, and we have, as Democrats, we have I think that they call it an abundance of riches in the candidate department. I talked to a lot of local candidates on up to the congressional level, and every one of them is really bright, really accomplished, really motivated, and you know what else? Really honest with a little integrity. How about that? Honesty and integrity. As you talk about putting his face on Mount Rushmore, which will be just a second, but when another something I just want to mention about mental illness, when President of the United States of America, an 80-year-old guy who starts a war 7 months ago, kills God knows how many innocent people, and I'll talk about those 175 girls in the girls' school forever. So and you remember George Bush with the mission accomplished thing and trying to be a big shot. Well, of course, the best Trump can come up with is to use AI to show some kind of a picture of him dominating with a aircraft carrier and the stars and stripes in the background, like he's the savior of America. And I can't. I mean, he added 10% to the deficit alone with that one big beautiful bill. How you guys are going to go home and expect to beg and plead for votes? Well, you probably expect to beg and plead for votes. It's just you better expect not to get many, because to be honest with you, you don't deserve them. You do not deserve them. You fail to act as an independent branch of government, as clearly spelled out in the Constitution. And you guys, Trump accuses Janine Pirro of folding it like an umbrella when she dismissed the case against the Olympic bicyclist Hearn for the reflecting pool alleged vandalism case. Well, I mean, he's just he has no support. He deserves to fold. And like I said, Republicans in the House and Senate just folded whatever he wanted. Mike Johnson would muscle through. I mean, every now and then you might have Tom Tillis or one of those other Freedom Caucus guys saying something, but for the most part, you were the face you guys put forward was of a less than how can I put this? A less than professional Jim Comer and an even less than professional Jim Jordan. I mean, and when the deal comes, and how come we know about Jim Jordan and a little wrestling hanky panky at Ohio or wherever it was, but how come we still don't have those Epstein files, huh, folks? What could possibly be in those Epstein files that they don't want us to see? Huh. I'll have to think about that and get back to you. But along this whole dis- Trump deception, and from the other side, what's the public entitled to know? And I'm going to go again way far out on a limb and suggest that as taxpayers, we kind of have a right to know how much Trump spent going golfing, right? Seems like a fair question to me. Or how about how much the war costing these days, Pete? And of course, Pete needs another drink for comes up with an answer. That's just kind of a joke. We know that Pretty Boy Pistol Pete Kegseth has long been on the wagon, and I'm sure the guy is at this point. I'm sure he's pure as driven snow, right? Okay, so I- if how much does war cost? Well, I don't know. Well, how many rockets we got left? Well, I don't know. Well, how many do we start with? Well, I don't know. I'm like, huh, you don't know how many rockets we started with. You don't know how many rockets we got now. And I'm going to suggest to you that that's enough to make someone think that the war was like Ganesh said, unstrategic. And if you're unstrategic, you're random, you're haphazard, you are, yes, chaotic. And guys, we it's like America had a choice between like the smartest girl in class or the dumbass frat boy who lives in like dumb Assistan or something. So you got Trump, the dumbass from Dumbassistan. And people said, "Oh, looks good." Yeah, and it's like Trump himself. Like when Netanyahu said how easy this Iran war was going to be, and Trump says, "Sounds good to me." Oh, that's like what the choice American people took when they said, "Oh, you can have the really nice, the smartest girl in class, or you can have the dumbass from Dumbassistan." And we're like, "Okay, we'll take the dumbass from Dumbassistan." And here we are, and if this is not an all hands on deck red alert, I don't know what is. But I don't really want to spend a whole lot more time scaring you. I don't really like doing that as it is. So instead, let me try to find a little ray of sunshine. How about that? Yeah, I think that's what the old Ab needs to be. Is Abby Kaufman is your ray of sunshine into the political world, and his two able guides are the New York Times, the greatest newspaper in the world, and the Financial Times, which is really close too, and occasionally the Times of London, but pretty faithfully those two. And I only paid attention. The New York Times has anywhere between like 6 and 8 headlines on the front page. And the one that I thought that was relevant, like I just missed chatting about everything else, was this is by Peter Baker, who's a really good reporter, and this is called "The Growing Defiance of Trump Flips the Script." And in there, he goes through and let's kind of set the stage. In the olden days, well, not like King Arthur olden days, but in the early Trump days, Trump would make demands. I want 20 billion or else. Okay, and finally, the opposite side would say, no, 20 million or 20 billion, whatever it was. And so Trump doesn't get what he wants. So what's he do? I'm not suing for 10 billion. I'm suing for 100 billion. So he just kind of escalates the thing with these ridiculous threats of crippling punishment. And usually the other side kind of knuckles under fear because the stakes have been raised to a level that he was bluffing, but they weren't willing to call his bluff, so he won. But I feel like that. Oh, you know what? This is a good reason to make today Thirsty Thursday. There is something to celebrate in the New York Times today. And the next part of this analysis was that Carney says no. The Canadian Prime Minister, no, we're not going to buckle under to you. We're not going to give in. We'll pay the price, whatever it is. No, You know, like, and I think no kind of roughly translates into like fu. I'm pretty sure there's a really close correlation there. Um, so yeah, so Carney just says no and walked away from a Canadian deal, allegedly because Howard Lutnick inserted some last minute demand. And again, that's so the question is, do you think that's true? Do you think Howard Lutnick submitted last minute demands that blew up the trade negotiations? And uh, so let's look at their past behavior. Canadians generally aren't known for doing that kind of stuff. On the other side, I think you could reasonably say that, especially after it was in his book, that Trump and his associates believe that's a legitimate negotiating tactic. And of course, what they're used to doing in the Bronx or Brooklyn is not how things are done on a world stage with world leaders, with world economies at stake. Trump, and the truth of the matter is, Trump's just intellectually inequipped to deal with this. So anyway, let's see. And how many was like 6 out of 10 Trump endorsed people lost in their primary recently? And his support is clearly slipping. I mean, and it kills me. There was just a guy on TV, and I forgot where. And please, forgive me, but it's just a California thing. Uh, uh, there's a pretty large guy, tattoos and beard, and could have been the most liberal person in the world, could have been the most conservative person. I didn't know, but the host is saying, "Oh, so you voted for Trump? Yes. How many times?" And the guy says 3 times. And the news guy says, "If you could say anything to him, what would it be?" And so I'm like, cut the bullshit. I'm like, oh my God, you've got people that voted for him 3 times, are seeing through. And at that point, guys, isn't it really an emperor has no clothes thing? I mean, what does he surround himself with? It's not an overpowering intellect. As a matter of fact, does anybody think that Donald Trump could negotiate or out negotiate his way with, I don't know, pick your world leader? I don't think you can. I think Gavin Newsom would make mincemeat out of him. And as a matter of fact, my secret hope, and you know what? DemocracyRadioNetwork.com would be willing to sponsor this. We would be willing to sponsor, or to host rather, to host a debate like this, long distance remote, between Trump and Gavin Newsom. Wouldn't we love to do that? Topics to be determined. And if Trump's this grand strategist, then he ought to be able to convince us pretty early on in this. I would think that the evidence will show otherwise. And if you wanted, and the only question is, how much time do we have to try the thing? I mean, this could go on for months. There's so much evidence against him. Um, but anyway, like I said, deep down is January 6th. So and the message of unity. Our email at democracyradionetwork.com is united at democracyradionetwork.com. And we honestly believe that is the only prayer we have of making some. Yeah, I still have this creepy feeling that the internal mechanics of the vote counting are going to be messed with. And guys, don't you number one, isn't that kind of like anti-Christian? I think there's something like, don't lie, cheat, steal, kill, cover your neighbor's wife's ass, or whatever that thing is. Is it cover your neighbor's ass, cover your wife's cover your neighbor's wife's, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, you guys get the deal. It's cheating by any stretch of the imagination. And everybody understands win at all costs. We all get that. But this is different. This is seizing the government of the United States of America. I mean, 250 years into this deal, we've never been faced like this. And you would have to assume that's a moment in which, and it clearly is a moment where we'll be tested, and we'll be tested over and over and over again. Uh, I see number one is no violence on November 2nd. That just can't be. There can be absolutely no pretext given for a national emergency. But I got to say, sometimes I think that if Trump had like in overgrown or ingrown like toenail or something, I think that would be a national emergency. And don't you think? How trivial a thing would it take to declare a national emergency? Would he declare it a national emergency if the old harpoon was ill for a day or two and missed work? Oh, isn't that a question? See, I'm sure he's got a plan B, like harpoon, harpoon A and harpoon B. Uh, yeah, I mean, what happens when when Natalie goes down? That's why that was a poor choice of words there, but yeah, you just, I mean, what happens? And and if someone is responsible for feeding the president of the United States a constant drip of disinformation, is that not treason? That, I mean, something just doesn't seem all something ain't kosher in the old deli, if you know what I mean. Uh, anyway, I have no idea how we kind of got off on that, but yeah, the truth of the matter is, he Trump is clearly fading. But cheating is just. I just don't know when and how Republicans, are okay with being cheaters. But they are. I mean, the evidence is just there. Every day he talks about this. The third term. I mean, the guy's just a lunatic. Who else tweets or social posts pictures of himself coming down from the heavens like Jesus to save the USA with a battleship in the Middle East? Mission accomplished. I'm like, God damn you. Do you have any idea how bad things are? And how about your guy Scott Bessent? He is clearly playing with fire with the bond market. $1 billion worth of bonds buyback. What is that? That, you know what that is? That's enough to admit you have a problem and to admit you don't have enough cash to deal with it. That's what that is. I mean, that's not even a fig leaf of $1 billion bond buyback. Anyway, 949-629-3820, and we'll be happy to chat with you about bonds. But like I say, it's just a problem when people sell your bonds, and when countries, or actually when anybody sells somebody's bond, they are saying, "I don't believe this person can pay me back." Okay, they don't believe you. I'll say that again. When somebody sells your bond, they're saying, I don't believe you can pay me back. Right. And you know something? Once one person thinks that, it's pretty easy for other people to think that. And before you know it, you have just a full blown crisis with uh, countries that hold our debt. And I think the two biggest are, I think Japan is number two and China is number three. I mean, look, if you have these guys dumping our bonds, not only are we screwed because, our word has been just thrown out the window, but we get screwed because if these people are selling our bonds and we've got to sell our own bonds to, to investors. And how do they get the bonds into the hands of investors? Well, they pay them interest. But in this situation, what they say, what you're paying us isn't worth the risk. We're getting 5.33%, and we know that's the highest in a while. But we just don't think you're capable of paying us back. So what's the states do? Okay, well maybe 6%. Actually, it's on auction, so they the rates you kind of set automatically. Um, but you can rest assured that you have to pay more in interest to get buyers when people are selling your bonds. You have to convince them that the risk is worth it. So what do? You promise them the moon. You give them that high interest rate. In the meantime, that interest payment floats over $40 trillion of debt, of which 10% was by the big, beautiful bill. I mean, it's just a complete political insanity. And, that's kind of why I'm really glad I get to deal with a lot of local politicians, because at that level, uh, you know, people are genuinely concerned. People have seen and experienced and know what's going on. Trump can laugh about the word affordability, and then and I'm going to tell you something. I'll be the first one to tell you that what's affordable for a billionaire, it might be a little unaffordable for old Uncle Ab here. Let's say why a billionaire might buy a I don't know $100,000 car, not bat an eye. You know, I can't come up with $1,000 for the car repair, and people are like that. And what's happening? Nothing. It's like he's just going to make matters worse. I you know I see these midterms are going to be huge. It won't be. I guess it'll be what, another week or two, and we'll start the election sprint to November 2nd. And I can't wait to see what. If Trump really is going to go all in on himself. I mean, don't forget the guy's got a pack worth $400 million that he's sitting on. Complete discretion over, right? Oh, but you know what? He did spend $1 million of that 400, which leaves him 399 ish. 399, 999, isn't it? Anyway, he did spend $1 million on Darlene Graham in South Carolina, and I'm going to tell you, that's just a travesty. To think that's just like an inherited seat. She has zero qualifications. She has one qualification. She's Lindsay's sister, and we just don't appoint people like that. We might let them finish out a term for a little courtesy, or I think didn't Mary Bono finish out Sonny's term and then she ran on her own, something like that. Uh, but yeah, she's not. She's not like she's a Rhodes Scholar or anything. And for all you people that the uneducated aren't always wrong, well, the truth of the matter is, in this anti-science environment, you guys are wrong and have been wrong and will always be wrong relative to climate change, and just about every scientific endeavor we've striven so hard to reach. And in China, they have cities with AI humanoids, robots, just running everything. And what if? And I'm sure we would take it out way, at some point. But what if there was like a submarine loaded with these humanoids that lands in, I don't know, New York City, and tries to take over Wall Street? These things can be killed, right? So it's just a really tenuous time in the world to you know and the work at times like this. If there was ever a time for a steady hand at the wheel, this is it. But does anybody think that or does anybody give Trump credit for being a steady hand at the wheel? Well, I need the guy that was crying when the helicopter got shot down or something. And another thing, he's kind of on a general losing streak, at least with the Kennedy Center and the birthright citizenship ruling and the reflecting pool. Oh, and isn't wanting to charge someone with a crime, despite no evidence of a crime, isn't that like malicious prosecution? I mean, the guy's just insane, and I can't. How you Republicans let it go? Uh, you know, Apparently you feel like you have a slim and no chances, or slim chance and no chances, slim chances out of town. But guys, I say, you see that flag behind me? Is that what you think of? You know, how I'm not sure how you take like pride in cheating. Um, you know, in America, we've always been about, fair play and treating everybody more or less the same, even in the face of, outright, unconstitutional discrimination. Is that what we stand for now? Cheating at all costs, or winning at all costs. And when you cheat, you don't. People don't believe you won, and you have a credibility problem. And I mean, the since his first appearance, Trump has been a cancer, and he metastasized during the what was it, The Apprentice? Well, did you guys believe I never saw that thing? I had no. I mean, I never could understand how Trump convinced people to listen to him. And Americans are just the funniest people. For some reason, we think that our wealth and intelligence always go together, and they don't. Sometimes you have just an idiot that's worth like $1 billion. And I can only offer that orange tin subhuman creature as Exhibit One. Anyway, okay, but I tell you what, let's try to be slightly more humorous. Oh, and you know what else? Before we go any further, I want to mention, and actually, this is kind of along the same lines. But I tell you what, let me give you this fun fact first, and I'll make it relevant. During the partial breakdown of New York City's 911 system last week, which was caused by a software glitch, read into that what you will, nearly 1,700 calls failed to reach 911, the 911 call center in the Bronx. How about that? 17, you know, I don't think it's all 1,700 like stabbing victims, uh, but anyway, so Tuesday I had the opportunity, and it was really nice. I interviewed and chatted with a fellow named David Petty from down near Laguna Niguel, and he is running for a seat on the Molten Niguel Water District Board. And his unique, how can I put this? The unique selling proposition is he has a cybersecurity background. Now, unless I miss my guess, having a water board member with a cybersecurity background at this point in time when water systems around the country are being hacked into regularly seems like a gift from heaven. Vote for this guy, put him in, donate money, do something. Elect David Petty, ELECT, David, and Petty like Richard and Adam and Kyle and the whole racing family. But yeah, who in their right mind would not want somebody with a cybersecurity background it working on in the water board? I mean, this could be a really big deal. I mean, I guarantee you that if you look at the candidates, if there's only one person that's really qualified to make the best effort possible to continue the flow of safe drinking water. I don't I don't know how previous government experience really helps with this. This isn't about the mechanics or the overview from 30,000 feet. This is like, being right in there and facing this. This is the front line. I mean, isn't this how the next war is really going to be? Uh, you know, you're in front of your screen, I'm in front of mine. Uh, so anyway, that would be so. Oh, guys, that would be elect David Petty, elect ELECT, David as in DAVID, and Petty as in Kyle, Richard, Adam, and the whole racing family. Okay, so well, let's see. Now that I plugged and I don't consider that a plug. I kind of see that as a public service. Guys, he's just a gift. We need him now, and we need him in that position. I don't think we can we can't ignore the possibility. And of course because Trump can't get out of Iran, I can't quit talking about Iran. And it's not like these sanctions are brand new and came out of thin air. We've been squeezing the living daylights out of that country for so long that, at some point there's just not much to squeeze. And when I think about the death toll in Iran, and I think about the threat about towards Baron Trump, you realize that there is no target too big or no target too small. I mean, to go after somebody's son, I mean, nobody, at least nobody in their right mind is happy with the president. And talking about that, Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, was the daughter of I think Pat Summerall. I think that was the guy's name, and I think he is a sportscaster or something. And in particular, you would think sportsmen would have a dim view of cheating, uh, and instead, what do? They worship the guy who perfects it. Trump kicks so many balls on the golf course, they call him Pele. Um, if the guy, I always tell you, past behavior and the best predictor of future behavior, but it's all we got. And when somebody cheats at something like golf, you can rest assured they cheat at other activities, and it's proven true. I mean, it's not like I'm making the stuff up, and it's not like I'm uh, just picking on a guy, but it's just he's got a history of this. Uh, uh, Discrimination is just really bad, and the vengeance that he's going after, legal workers, for instance. I mean, this whole ICE thing, couldn't that, that almost seem like a private army where you can be, I don't know, going to and from the market and 30 guys pull up in a wagon, put a bag over your head and throw you in the back of the car? Is that who? And you see, again, the flag's behind me. I don't think that's not us. That might be like some third-rate banana republic. But guess what, guys? We have all the makings of a banana republic. And to let a dunce like Donald Trump, get away with this is just a travesty. But the truth of the matter is, there was no, you know, we had a sheriff. They just didn't show up, or they were in on the take. One of the two. Either way, they're crooked and dirty. And of course, that's the first thing Trump accuses the Democrats. I'm like, look, they're the ones that are dirty and lying. Well, Don, just that's not true. That's not how it works. And as soon as as soon as somebody asks Trump a question, a reporter, and Trump gives an answer, and as soon as the reporter goes, "But sir, that's not true," or "But sir, that's a bald face," how about this? "But sir, that's not true. That's a bald faced lie." At that point, you just might have started to crack the shell. And I said the truth of the matter is he's going to be a menace until he's out of the way. And I'm not advocating killing or hurting, maybe whatever it is. But until he no longer participates in the political scene in the United States or in the world, he's going to be here. So let's see. And does anybody? What are the odds? I don't know if this is a Kalshi thing, but would you love to know? Can you predict? I think there's this thing on like you can't gamble that such and such is going to die by such and such a date. I don't think you're supposed to do that. Uh, but I wonder if it's possible to vote on whether it's possible he had a stroke or not. The guy's 80 years old with a diet of McDonald's and Diet Cokes. What could go wrong, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he exercises by let's see, what does he do? Oh, that's right. He plays golf, but then he kind of like take a golf cart. So he walks like from the golf court, from the golf cart to the golf ball, and then back to the golf cart. Huh? I bet you don't burn a whole lot of calories doing that. especially when dessert is McDonald's and some Diet Cokes. And oh, by the way, how you try those apple pies lately, Don? How they or you know what? Why don't you just instead? This is what you do. Instead of the ballroom, instead of the bunker, instead of all that, have McDonald's put in a little McDonald's. Have your pals gather for cheeseburgers and Diet Cokes. Oh, Don, that's the deal. And that's what you need to do. Have McDonald's put a little. Oh, and you know what? I'd go a step further. I would call it McTrumps. Yeah, I would start like a little McTrumps thing, and have it, and he'll start it in the White House, and then of course he'll franchise the operation. Uh, so yeah, McTrumps. Doesn't that just make you want to have one? Uh, McTrumps. Please God spare me. Yeah, the better one would be In and Out to throw the bum out, but yeah, and he probably gets along well with In and Out people. They're pretty right wing. As a matter of fact, Lindsay Snyder, I think her parents died in a plane crash when she was really young, and she did a lot to transform into the In and Out we know. But having said that, I do think that I'd much rather have Donald Trump In and Out than see him make Trumps anywhere. And just out of curiosity, what would a McTrump have on it? Would it be like some ham, some ham, some more ham? I mean, what would you put on a McTrump burger? Uh, yeah, whatever it is, it's got to be an artery clogging special. It has to have like I don't know a couple, however they measure butter, a couple things of butter, and yeah, let's well, let's see if we can't make his life really fulfilling, until he's called home by his maker. Which we'll debate the time later. I don't want to construe this with a James Comey seashell art kind of thing. But see, and that kind of typified the deal. They blow everything up way out of proportion, and when everything becomes a catastrophe, then nothing's a catastrophe. And when he declares a national emergency, trust me, there's going to be no basis for it or some marginal fig leaf to declare a national emergency. I'm not. And the truth of the matter is, we've always had relatively, decent, more or less honest people in the White House. We're clearly not perfect, but we were looking pretty good with Joe Biden, weren't we? The Green New Deal, and don't forget, Biden had science funded, had research going, and we were a brain power. And now Trump's just hollowed out the government to, let's say, even if we Democrats win everything big time in November, what kind of Justice Department do we take over trying to hold them accountable? And the answer is the Justice Department with all the experienced guys gone. I mean, it's like he looted the country. And just out of curiosity, is there any doubt that if Trump sees things going to hell in a handbasket, is there any doubt that he won't burn the place down? I mean, whatever that might entail. And while we're talking about stuff that may or may not be obvious, I hope you remember not long ago when he asked for the master list of U.S. spies. And usually that information is now. Why would you have all that in one place, especially written down? Usually it's on like a need to know kind of basis. And but anyway, he's the president, so he gets this list. And the question becomes, well, why? What's he gonna do with it? And you look at his background, his transaction, his background, his history of being a transactional guy, and you would have to wager that it's more likely than not that he might just try to sell this thing. And how much would that be worth? How much would our intelligence network be worth to China, Russia? I don't know, or maybe a consortium of bad guys. maybe a consortium of bad guys that could offer him. And I see then you have to think about, well, how much do they want for it? How much will somebody pay? And you would have to assume that you kind of start talking at the $100 billion level, and you probably get kind of serious at the $500 billion level. But there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that if someone were able to transfer $1 trillion to Donald Trump, there's no question that he doesn't hand over that list to you and kiss you on the cheek. Does anybody believe that's not the kind of guy he is? Again, as I look at the American flag blowing behind me, I mean, think about it. Doesn't just blowing in the wind kind of suggest, freedom of some sort? We stumbled into a really nice continent, and we've a really nice world, and we've done our best to destroy it, and the denial of science is just a cancer on society. It has We have regressed. I have no idea how long it's going to take to recover, if ever. It's clearly going to take 20 years to build up a a competent and intelligent workforce, and to do that, you Trump will have to, or things will have to shake out such that we don't need and we don't get another Republican president for 50 years. I mean, this has to be really decisive. And Democratic Socialists check, Democratic Communists check. I don't care what the deal is. Any Democrat of any stripe, Democrat, Socialist, Communist, I don't care, name it. I don't know what, you know. So you be a Democratic fascist, whatever it is, it's better than the best Republican alternative. So, guys, yeah, it's funny. The United States of America, and we need to be the United Democrats of America. I think I think that's exactly what we need to be, the United Democrats of America. And in unity, there's strength. We can win this. It's not going to be easy, and no war really is. And if you think about this like a war, I think you're on the right track, because Trump is clearly going to leave no option off the table. I mean, on some level, he knows that this doesn't go his way, that he may not know exactly what will happen, but he knows it ain't gonna be good, and that's gonna make him fight for self-preservation like a man possessed, which he clearly is. It's just he's just possessed by the entity that condones lying, cheating, and stealing. Anyway, guys, I said I'm sure you're gonna hear my voice starting to crack and go, and I always try to make it past the 1 o'clock hour, and it gets harder and harder for me. So anyway, and if I had half brain, I would bring uh, I would bring a nice little bottle of rum up here, and just kind of wet my throat to kind of lubricate things. But Ab can't drink anymore, so we have to do it. So you have to. And you may be really lucky you get a little bit less of me than you would ordinarily bargain for. So, guys, at this point in time, I'm going to get ready to say adios. It's Thursday, a thirsty Thursday. I'm going to go play and rock out and get a few more. I got to prepare for JJ Galvez tomorrow from District 71. So, guys, be sure and tune in tomorrow and listen to JJ's plans, and and let me prove to you the abundance of riches we have in our local candidates and how lucky we are. So, guys, you know what we always say about this time?